Stefon Diggs is now a member of the New England Patriots. Will he be a game changer for quarterback Drake Maye? Stick around. You're about to be locked into the Locked On Patriots podcast.
You are Locked On Patriots, your daily New England Patriots podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all of you Foxborough faithful. Thank you once again for making Locked On Patriots a daily part of your New England Patriots coverage. I'm your host, Mike Debate. I cover your New England Patriots for the Locked On Podcast Network. Reach out to me. Let me know what's on your mind on X at MDABATENFL. While you're out there showing some love to Locked On Patriots social media style, follow our account there as well at LO_Patriots. And you can catch me over where the skies are blue on Blue Sky at MDABATENFL.bsky.social. And of course, Pats fans, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Patriots fans, Foxborough, Massachusetts, and all the surrounding areas of Patriots Nation are abuzz this morning with the news that free agent wide receiver Stefon Diggs has reached an agreement on a 3-year, $69 million deal, including $26 million guaranteed with your New England Patriots. That's right, folks. Stefon Diggs is now a member of the New England Patriots, and the 31-year-old automatically upgrades this wide receivers room and the Patriots offense as a whole. Diggs appeared in 8 games for the Houston Texans last year, catching 47 passes for 496 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. But of course, that was in a shortened season due to injury. Diggs suffered an ACL tear in October, did not see action on the field for the remainder of the season. Will it keep him out into this regular season? That remains to be seen. Here today on the pod, we'll be talking about that injury, but most of all, we're going to be talking about the impact Stefon Diggs will have on this New England Patriots team, specifically on its quarterback, Drake Maye. Will he elevate the game of his fellow receivers around him, who might be out of a job as a result of Stefon's arrival? And we're even going to delve into whether or not the signing of Stefon Diggs will impact the Patriots' 2025 draft plans. I say we because monster news of this type can only be handled by one man, and that is the man joining us today, our good friend, the legend himself, the monster master of disaster. But there's no disaster today. There really is only great things to talk about, and that's why we're thrilled to have him here. My good friend, Thomas Murphy, thank you for joining me today in friendship, Don Murph.
Oh, what a great day to be friends. I'm thrilled, man. This smile hasn't left my face since sometime around 10 a.m. yesterday. All right. And that's when I watched Up and Adams, and Drake Maye was on with Say Adams, our old buddy from NBC Sports Boston. And she was asking Drake Maye, who followed who first on Instagram, Drake or Stefon Diggs? Who is like, it was mutual. I knew it then and there. Mm-hmm. I didn't go out on a limb and say it's a done deal and it's happening, but I kind of knew it then and there. Why would these two start following each other if they weren't going to be deep in each other's playbooks? You know, and it then it kind of unfolded throughout the day. Then the arguments started, then the cheering happened, and you know, it was a brilliant day yesterday, and I'm glad that we're here today to talk about it.
Oh, without question. So well said. Social media being the ultimate soothsayer in this case, Murph. And as I said to kick off the show today, Foxborough is abuzz. And it's been a while since the Patriots have had this type of pass catcher in the wide receiver room that's garnering this type of attention, that automatically comes in with that number one wide receiver aura the moment he walks through the room. I said yesterday here on Locked On Patriots to celebrate the signing that he is immediately going to command the attention of opposing defenses. And it's been a while since a wide receiver in New England has done that. We've heard opposing defenses say that when they played New England, especially the last couple of years, they didn't have to game plan for anybody. If Stefon Diggs is healthy, and we'll get into that in just a moment, he is someone you absolutely have to game plan for. Yep. Our good friend Phil Perry of NBC Sports Boston, I think, put it best when he called Stefon Diggs a route running technician. He really is, in terms of route running, in terms of what he's able to do on the field. We know that last season ended prematurely via injury.
Right.
But prior to last season, Diggs posted 6 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons for both the Minnesota Vikings and the Buffalo Bills. That is an immediate upgrade in talent for this room. Before we start getting into some of the logistics surrounding the signing and maybe some of the off-field issues that still concern some of our everydayers, tell us a little bit about your feelings on Stefon Diggs, the wide receiver.
When he went to Buffalo, Buffalo got serious. All right, and when
Very good point.
the problems that he presented to the entire league, and of course to folks here in the AFC East, were dumbfounding. We saw him do this to rookie Christian Gonzalez. We've been watching him do this for a decade or more. Nobody has done this in a Patriots uniform since Julian Edelman did it back in 2019, I think. It's going to be a lot of fun. Now, some people are going to say, sure, it's easy to put up those kind of numbers with, and you're going back even to last year when you're lining up opposite side of Nico Collins, and people are already saying that Nico Collins, and rightfully so, was the number one wide receiver on that team. But that doesn't mean that in a different situation that our man wouldn't have been the number one wide receiver. He's the number one wide receiver here. He's the number one wide receiver in the room. He's, as you said, a tactician, a killer. So, let's see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't wait to see what happens. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that Stefon Diggs can be at his best whether the conditions are clear sailing or whether there's a little bit off platform going on the field. Kind of reminds me of how we describe Drake Maye. I mean, that's exactly the type of quarterback that you have here in your arsenal, New England. He's got the athleticism to extend plays. He's got the arm strength and the arm talent to be accurate down the field when he needs to be, even if the platform and the angle are not exactly at their best. The only thing missing last year, in my opinion, Murph, was the receiver. A lot of times the receivers just couldn't get into position. They couldn't help. They really couldn't help Drake do what he needed to do and complete
couldn't line up
passes.
right.
Absolutely. Either lining up right or running the incorrect route or unsure hands, things of that nature. You're not going to have those problems with Stefon Diggs. He's the go-to in that situation. And you start tacking on those plays that were either near misses or, dare I say, egregious misses last year. Those aren't going to be missed this year. Drake is going to connect on those. Stefon Diggs is a big reason why.
Yeah, it's a really big reason why. Stefon put out an Instagram video yesterday, the day before, showing his agility, showing that things were progressing in the right way. If he can still make the cuts, man, it's going to be interesting, because we know in his head that he knows every route. He knows the tree is amazing, and he doesn't miss a beat. If he's supposed to be somewhere, he's there. And like we said just 5 days ago, if he had broken in and the pass went outside, then you can probably have blamed it on the quarterback. This man knows where he needs to be, and he's going to. The thing that I love the most is he is going to be a taskmaster to the other guys in the room. I'm here putting in the work. Get out there and put in the work. Line up where you're supposed to line. This is where you're supposed to make that cut. I'm excited as any. We were here just 5 days ago talking about if this happened, that the Patriots would be serious contenders for a playoff spot if they hit the draft right. Okay.
Right.
And I know we're gonna talk about that in just a second.
Oh, absolutely. We are going to touch into what this means for the Patriots draft plans, if anything. Maybe it won't change a thing. Murph and I will give our thoughts on that subject in just a moment. But again, I think coming back to signing Stefon Diggs and bringing him into the fold, I'll throw in a movie quote, or I'll throw in a movie reference here. Rocky 3, when Apollo Creed finally gets Rocky to agree to the rematch with Clubber Lang, and he introduces him to his trainer, Tony, for the first time. And Tony shakes Rocky's hand and he says, "It's going to be great working with you. I certainly had enough working against you."
There you go.
And I really think in a lot of ways, this does apply to the Patriots and Stefon Diggs as well. We've seen what this guy can do in an opposing uniform, coming in and wreaking havoc all over the field. Had some of his best games as a Buffalo Bill against the New England Patriots, a couple of games where he went over 100 yards receiving. Last year, dare I say, more of a forgettable year for Stefon Diggs, but still had a pretty good game against the Pats when they played 77 yards and a touchdown, and he did it all against Christian Gonzalez. So Christian is going to be really happy that he doesn't have to face Stefon anymore. I think a lot of that factor and a lot of that experience is really what's going to make this signing come alive. And that leads me quite nicely into the topic that we're going to be discussing in just a moment, folks, when Locked On Patriots continues, because Stefon Diggs will not only have an immediate impact on his own statistical prowess, he won't only be having an impact on Drake Maye, he's going to have a significant impact on the wide receiver room. What member of this group of receivers will benefit most from Stefon's presence? Murph and I are going to talk about that subject in just a moment when this episode of the Locked On Patriots podcast continues, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Locked On listeners, imagine watching your favorite team live, feeling the energy of the crowd and witnessing unforgettable moments. There's nothing like experiencing a big game in person. But getting tickets shouldn't be stressful. That's where Game Time comes in, making it easier than ever to grab last-minute seats at unbeatable prices. With Game Time picks, curation makes it easier to find better value for tickets to sports, concerts, comedy, and theater. And here's the thing I love most about Game Time: peace of mind. With seat views before you buy, no surprise fees, and a lowest price guarantee, you can book with total confidence. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONNFL, LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Patriots fans, thank you once again for joining us here today on Locked On Patriots as we continue to break down the New England Patriots signing of Stefon Diggs. Yeah, that's right, folks. Wide receiver Stefon Diggs, true wide receiver number one, headed to Foxborough, will be joining your New England Patriots. And here today to help me break it all down is the Green King of Sting himself, the Count of Murphy Fisto, the legendary Thomas Murphy of DieHardBostonSportsFans.com. Murph, in the previous segment, we talked about the receiver, Stefon Diggs, what he brings to the table, the impact that he's going to have on Drake Maye. But I think the biggest impact that Stefon is poised to have is going to be on the wide receiver room as a whole.
Yep.
This group is not exactly going to leap off the page when it comes to game-breaking talent, at least on paper. I do want to make that distinction because there are talented players in this locker room, very hard workers in this locker room. So I don't want to disparage this group too much. But when you look at what the Patriots right now are rostering, taking Stefon out of the equation for just a second, Mac Hollins, newly signed. The way his contract is structured, you can pretty much guarantee that he's going to be a lock on this roster. The Patriots would not have signed that contract if they weren't planning on putting him on the 53. Then you've got a group that struggled at times last year, but showed flashes that they could be more than what they are. I'm looking at guys like Kayshon Boutte, Demario Douglas, who knows, maybe even a Javon Baker or a Jalen Polk, Jaquay Jackson, John Giles, Kendrick Bourne. All of these receivers right now, watching Stefon Diggs walk through the door the first day of minicamp, OTAs, whatever, whenever Stefon does arrive in Foxborough for duty, so to speak. Like you said in the previous segment, that bar is going to be immediately raised. So when you look at now Stefon Diggs being added to that group, who would you say stands to benefit the most from Stefon Diggs' presence?
I would think Pop Douglas. You know, the knowledge that he's going to be able to share with Pop, the fact that he's going to be able to drag more coverage around the field and open up the underneath for Pop is going to be I don't want to say mind blowing, but it's going to be world changing for him. having a receiver of this caliber, somebody that the opponents have to game plan for, have to know where he's going to be on every down. The guy that, Stefon Diggs is still the man that you have to put your best defensive back on and probably give them help over the top. I'm sure his top end speed is not what it was 2, 3 years ago, but out of any of us, whose is? And but he's still going to be the number one guy on there. He's still going to open up space for him. He's still going to help out Kayshon Boutte. He's still going to help out Demario, even Matt Collins. And don't forget the way this is going to affect the rest of the team. All right, having somebody that is going to understand and thrive in the Tom Brady, Josh McDaniels system. We've already decided that's what we're calling it from now on. That quick passing game, it's going to be brilliant because this guy is going to be 20 yards down the field when somebody underneath, even a Hunter Henry, is going to be grabbing a ball at 10 yards down the field because the ball got out that quickly. But they've got 3 guys that are over here worried about Mr. Diggs.
Very well said. And I'm glad that you mentioned someone like a Hunter Henry or even an Austin Hooper, because the tight ends will benefit greatly from having a top end wide receiver. So I'm looking forward to seeing the impact this could possibly have on Kayshon Boutte. Definitely looking forward to seeing the impact that this could have on Javon Baker. We know that in his collegiate days, Javon was compared to a very young Stefon Diggs without the refining of the route running. Maybe under Stefon's expert tutelage, maybe Javon can actually add that to his game, and maybe we start to see what the Patriots saw in him last year. Dare I say, Murph, I know we've been critical of him here on Locked On Patriots, but this could help someone like a Jalen Polk as well.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, he becomes more of a situational specialist, a contested catch, spot of attack receiver that doesn't really have to necessarily go out and get you yak, but if you need 5 yards and you need the ball spotted at a certain location, if Jalen can improve his ability to make the catch, all of a sudden he may be a little more valuable to the Patriots as well. So a lot of the guys that are in this locker room right now could benefit. Murph, I have to ask the unfortunate question, though, and that there are only so many spots on this team, only so many spots on the 53-man roster. When you look from top to bottom now, the players that we've mentioned, whose position on this roster would you say might be more precarious now than 24 hours ago before word broke that Stefon Diggs was coming to town?
Yeah, well, I think this is definitely here's the top of the ladder with Stefon Diggs, and him being there pushes other people down. Okay, I don't think this is going to be a problem for Kayshon Boutte. I don't think this is going to be a problem for Demario Douglas. I don't think this is going to be a problem for the aforementioned Matt Collins or Kendrick Bourne. Jalen Polk had better be on his game from the get-go. Mr. Best Hands in football had better be able to hang on to a ball. All right, Javon Baker, yes, could be a problem. Quay Jackson, John Giles, the room is kind of full, but it's not full with top-end talent. Okay, any of these guys could go. Kendrick Bourne could end up being moved in some fashion. I'm not predicting that. I'm just saying it could happen. All right. But I don't see that happening because, Kendrick Bourne probably had one of his best years with Josh McDaniels on the sidelines a couple of years ago. And, but no, it's going to push everybody down. It's going to push everybody back. But the guys the names that we all know and have been waiting for to get better, to reach their potential, or at least look like they're scratching at their potential of what you were told by other pundits about their game. Yeah, they're going to have to step up because I'm telling you right now, this administration is not going to be shy and not going to worry about walking away from any of them.
Very good point. And that leads me quite nicely to what will be my final question on the subject before we move on to the potential impact that Diggs signing may have on the draft plans. And we have to address it because there are a lot of our everydayers. There are a lot of Patriots, members of Patriots Nation out there right now that are still a little worried about this signing, both from a character standpoint, financial commitment that the Patriots have made to Diggs, and his injury history. So my question to you, my friend, is when you look at Stefon Diggs, all of the positives that we've listed, are there still any negatives out there that give you a little bit of pause in this deal? What concerns you most about Stefon Diggs arriving in New England that could have more of a negative impact than a positive impact, if any?
I've been racking my brain thinking about a negative impact, and it could only go bad if Stefon is at his worst at all times. Okay, if he walks in and is demanding 80 targets, a game, and it really wears on Drake Maye. I don't see that happening. I really don't think that Mike Vrabel is going to allow that to happen.
Right.
I think this is the right coach and the right spot for him, and I was just glad that he felt the same. Granted, the Patriots may have overpaid him. May have what's an overpay though? I haven't seen the total breakdown of this deal, but it doesn't seem like there's much to worry about after year two. I'm glad it was a 3-year deal. I'm definitely glad it was a 2-year deal. And so no, I don't see a negative impact here. I could be completely wrong. But I think that we're going to see a better version of Drake Maye this year than we would have if he was not here. I think we're going to see a better version of Josh McDaniels on the sidelines than we would have if Diggs was not here. I don't see the downside to anybody except if you're at the bottom of the depth chart in the wide receiver room. For anyone on the New England Patriots, except maybe Robert Kraft's checkbook. I don't care.
A little bit lighter this morning, Murph.
Yeah.
Very good observation. I'm in full agreement with you. I don't see a negative here in signing Stefon Diggs at this point. I received a DM last night where it said, okay, well, the Patriots were weary of bringing in guys like DK Metcalf and Devontae Adams because of quote unquote the negative impact they could have on Drake Maye, and they brought in Stefon Diggs. I don't agree with that statement at all. I think that's an inaccurate display of exactly what's going on here. Stefon Diggs may have had his issues on the sidelines in Buffalo. We've seen that before. But the nature of those disagreements, the nature of those difficulties were when Stefon was playing at his highest level and felt that he wasn't getting the ball enough to be able to help his team. I don't believe that's going to happen here because, first of all, if Stefon is clicking on all cylinders and he is your top option and he's fully healthy, he's going to be getting the ball. Josh McDaniels is not going to start messing around here and trying to turn water into wine. He's going to understand that he's got the golden ticket now in Stefon Diggs. He's going to keep going to it. So as long as you keep him fed, Stefon Diggs is going to be the model citizen. And I think that's what will happen here in New England. So I'm not worried about the negative impact or the problems that he could have with Drake Maye because of targets. I think Stefon is going to get his adequate targets. Some will point to the contract, and you mentioned this, and the contract details haven't fully been released yet. But $69 million, folks, is the number that the agents love to put out there. It's not the number that necessarily reflects the final. As our good friend Miguel Benzan has said several times, Murph, and I know you worship at the church of Miguel the same way I do, he has told me over and over again, that final number is the up to number. It's not the final number. So, folks, when you look at what the Patriots have made a commitment on, look at the guaranteed money. $26 million, Murph, as opposed to $69 million. That's a good gap in terms of the guarantee on this contract and what it could be worth. It gives the Patriots an out if they really need to take it. And let's face it, the Patriots had the money. They're dealing from a position of surplus. This wasn't a situation where they had to go, scrapping for the last few dollars and cents that they had to sign Stefon Diggs. This money was essentially just sitting there. Why not put it to good use? The return on investment could be light years above what you had to invest here if, in fact, he is healthy. And to me, Murph, if there is a concern, this is my only concern. If Stefon comes in and is not 100% healthy and tries to force himself back on the field, or if it takes him a little time to get acclimated back into game shape, because
Football
we
shape.
know that players who have suffered torn ACLs before sometimes take a season to get back into the swing of things. That's the only thing right now, I don't want to say that worries me, but gives me pause to celebrate this without any concerns whatsoever. Because if Stefon is slow to come back and he feels he's not being targeted properly, that's the only thing I think that could disrupt this. But I think the chances of that are very minimal. If the Patriots were worried about the physicals and this guy getting back on the field,
Right.
they wouldn't have shelled out the type of money that they did to get him here in New England.
Exactly. This is still serious money. It's not number one wide receiver money by the standards being set by last year's free agent group, but it's still a good chunk of money. And believe me, Robert Kraft would not be shelling this out if his doctors didn't come back. Looking at the MRI and other tests that Stefon went through while he was up here getting his physical, that money wouldn't have been handed over. It wouldn't have been. It tells me the gap in between when he was here 5 days ago and last night tells me that they went over all his medicals in a serious way. They talked about every possible scenario, and they believe that if it's not week 1, it could be week 4. That this is money well invested. And again, I go back to being glad that this is a 2-3 year contract and not just a 1 year prove it deal.
Very important point to make. And again, folks, maybe one of the reasons why Stefon left last week without signing a deal, New England protecting itself, just like Stefon was protecting himself. So both sides parted, came back together, and they decided that this union was the one for both parties in 2025. We've discussed a lot about Stefon Diggs today, the positives, the few negatives, all the excitement the Patriots Nation is feeling, but this is going to have a ripple effect on the Pats, not just on the field, but also in the roster room. And that includes players who have yet to be added to this roster. Yeah, I'm talking about the 2025 NFL Draft. Patriots were heavily rumored to be in the market for a receiver. Does this take them out of that market completely? Murph and I may have some interesting takes on that and more when we wrap up our discussion today on Stefon Diggs signing with the New England Patriots right here on the Locked On Patriots podcast, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Patriots fans, thank you once again for joining us here today on Locked On Patriots as we continue to break down Stefon Diggs signing with the New England Patriots, a 3-year deal, $69 million, or at least worth up to $69 million with $26 million guaranteed. It's a good day to be Stefon Diggs. It's a great day to be a New England Patriots fan. It's an even greater day to be listening to Locked On Patriots because you are hearing the wisdom, the counsel, the wit and the grit of my good friend, the legendary Thomas Murphy of diehardbostonsportsfans.com. Murph, we've talked about the ups and the minor downs of signing Stefon Diggs here to New England. We're both in agreement that this is a great thing for the Pats across the board. I'm excited to welcome Stefon here to New England. I know you are too. But a signing like this doesn't just affect one player. It doesn't just affect the quarterback. It doesn't just affect the wide receiver room. It also has an effect on the future plans for this team as well. And the immediate future for the New England Patriots lies at the end of April in the 2025 NFL Draft. The Pats were heavily rumored to be interested in drafting a wideout in one of the first 2 rounds, if not number 4 overall, trading down, maybe getting some value there, and adding a receiver in that round. At the very least, round 2 was kind of the cap, maybe the ceiling as to where the Patriots would go in terms of drafting a wideout. But bringing in someone like Stefon Diggs on a multi-year deal could affect those plans. It could force the Patriots' hand to focus on what we believe is their biggest roster problem and still remains their biggest roster problem, and that's left tackle. Do the Patriots go for best player available and go for a generational type talent at pass rush in Abdul Carter? Do they go for a dual threat, someone that not only could help their receiver core, but also be one of their top defensive backs in Travis Hunter? Will either of those two gentlemen still be on the board by the time the Patriots are talking? Russell Wilson agreeing to play his football on the blue side of the Meadowlands may change all of that. So you see all of the dominoes starting to now maybe topple a little bit, and they're not
Yep.
falling into place the way everybody thought they would just 24 to 48 hours ago. You see things us mere mortals don't see when it comes to the draft. When you look at this, what do you believe is going to be the greatest impact to the Patriots when it comes to signing Diggs and their plans for the 2025 NFL draft?
It takes the pressure off. Okay, it's one less position of need that you have to address at the top of a draft. Okay, bringing Diggs in here doesn't eliminate the need for a wide receiver, a number one wide receiver, but it allows you to allow the draft to unfold and come to you, as opposed to, yes, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to take that number one wide receiver in the top 10, even if I trade down from 4 to 7 or whatever, and make sure that I get Ted McMillan, and then have to work my way back up the board to get the offensive tackle that I need so badly. Okay, it removes the need to reach, because you can allow that to happen more organically. So maybe, yes, I take my left tackle at 4 or at 10, and the guy that I would have taken at 4 or 10, and maybe even down to 14, because I've told you, all these guys, all these left tackles, that everybody's talking about, they're not going to be there in the second round. You can still get a very talented wide receiver at the bottom of the first round or into the second round. You could still end up with a Luther Burden. You could still end up with Eric or out of Stanford. Trey Harris is still going to be there. All right, these are guys that can come in and contribute right away, and that's what you need out of this draft, is 3 solid players that are going to contribute from day one. All right, now that's offensive tackle, offensive guard, and wide receiver. How you go about that, you can use the rest of your draft capital to make that happen. I've talked at length about how the Patriots are going to need at least 4, maybe 5 players inside the top 100. They have the draft picks to do it, and now they're more capable of playing those chips in a way that is going to get them those special players. Not that I'm saying that everybody in the top 100 could be special, but if you do it right and you go after the guys that have this kind of talent, it allows Elliott Wolf, this staff in the draft room that day, in the war room that day, to look at the board and not only draft the best available player, but draft the best available player that fits a need. And there are still so many needs.
Right on the money.
Junior talked the other day about how, well, we're going to take the best player available. Now you can get into semantics as to why he worded it that way, but you can take the best available player and still fit a need at the same time. You can do that. Yes, I want that to be the best available left tackle at that moment, and then I want it to be the best wide receiver at that moment, and then yes, I want it to be the best center or the best left guard at that moment, or somebody that we feel can become a left guard, and that person probably won't be on the board there at tackle being moved over anymore, but there's still going to be a lot of guys who have Georgia on their mind a lot of the time when they're picking there in the third round. The draft just got easier. The load was just lessened a little bit by this signing, and I don't think it's going to change the way that they attack the board. In knowing it's going to change the way that they're able to attack the board, I don't think it's going to change the way that they attack the board in looking at best available player as opposed to filling a position of need, because you're going to be able to fill that position of need with the best available player.
Very well said. And I agree with you. Look, bottom line, the New England Patriots know what they need heading into the draft. Signing someone like a Stefon Diggs doesn't take away the need for them to draft a receiver. Again, we don't know what this new staff, I know Elliott Wolf is a holdover. He remains in place, but we don't know what Mike Vrabel and Ryan Cowden are going to think of Javon Baker and Jalen Polk when they get out there on the practice fields. Maybe they're not the guys that they want in this room. Maybe they want to draft someone that's going to be an apt pupil for Stefon Diggs to kind of mentor and bring along a little bit. We've heard, you mentioned Tet McMillan. I think a lot of people would look at him and say, okay, well, maybe he can add some route running to his repertoire. This is another guy that's very good at being able to make catches at the point of attack, but could use a little refinement in his route running skill. I go back to Travis Hunter. I mean, if the Patriots do want to remain at number 4 and for some reason Hunter slips to that level, this is a game-breaking type of talent on both sides of the ball. I don't think it stops New England from going after. If anything, Hunter could really benefit from having someone like Stefon Diggs on staff, because not only can he help him refine his route running as a receiver, which, according to the scouting reports and what I've watched on Travis Hunter, the only knock against him as a receiver was that he could refine his route running tree a little bit more. Who's a better consigliere than Stefon Diggs to give him that wisdom and counsel that he needs to go ahead and to do that? He could also help him as a defensive back. So again, there are so many different ways the Patriots could go, but I agree with you, Murph. This does not change their strategy of what they need. If it makes a trade at number 4 a little more likely, because maybe the Giants are not going to take Shedeur Sanders, and maybe a quarterback-hungry team wants to move up to number 4, and they want to try to throw their hat into the Shedeur Sanders ring, maybe the Patriots can trade down a couple of notches and get that left tackle that they're looking for and maximize their draft capital. Once again, I think this makes things more exciting for the draft rather than take some of the mystique away from it. I think this makes it even more likely that the Patriots have a more productive draft heading into 2025.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. It's going to be a lot of fun seeing what they're able to do here.
But what can I say? You are always there for the handoff and always there whenever I need you. Folks, who else could go back-to-back here on Locked On Patriots and be even more captivating than the first time he comes on? My good buddy Thomas Murphy. Bottom line, folks, if you are not already, you should be following my good friend Thomas Murphy on Twitter at TMurph207S. Bottom line, you will be more informed. You will be very well entertained. You can't ask for more. And, of course, you can catch him each and every week here on Locked On Patriots, most of the time, multiple times per week. And in this case, back-to-back appearances, my friends. So once again, a tip of the cap and thank you for all you do for Locked On Patriots. Most importantly, folks, thank all of you, each and every one of you everydayers, all of you occasional listeners, and anyone joining us for the first time today in light of the Stefon Diggs signing. We hope you keep it right here on Locked On Patriots, because the best is yet to come. National draft analysts coming on soon to break down the draft, and all of the New England Patriots news that you need will be right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. So stay locked in. The best is yet to come. On behalf of my good friend Thomas Murphy, I'm Mike Debate, reminding all of you to stay safe, to stay well, to be the change that you wish to see in the world. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you back here again tomorrow on Locked On Patriots.